the pig at full forward.
Rockcliffe, gee, that was strong by Rockcliffe. That is a terrific goal.
Fantasia or Fantasia?
Roaming Orazio.
Orazio Fantasia!
I wonder how far we've got to go back to see when time on was allowed for a pig on the ground.
Mieko! Kaudaku! Pepepana! Wagako! Naranalo Kamaka Yaro Kumanindi!
Namani, Naigana, Biko, Mankalankla, Marawachanga, Gana Miami. Nai Wangadi Mani the Budni, Gana Yatana, Irindi Yata. Tandanya Wama, Nudlu, Yada Boti, Bandu, Wadley. Nachu Yukandaya, Nachu Yakandaya, Nakada, Naitaya. Hello, and welcome to the lands of the Ghana people. As an ambassador, it is my pleasure to welcome you here to the spirit place of the Red Kangaroo, being Adelaide Oval. And we at Port Adelaide welcome you here today. We never say goodbye, we always say see you later.
Welcome back to Rock the Razbah, episode 7. We've survived another week of Razio, another wins on the board. We went down to Tasmania and got that win. I'll introduce my co-host, Razio Fantasia.
Rock, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. You're back?
Back, yes.
Sub?
I was a sub, bit of a late call there with the skipper in the health and safety protocols, but it was nice to be around the lads again and get down to Tassie.
No game time, I know what that's like, but another career game for you. So another match payment slips into the bank account, which is always nice.
Does that add to the total, does it?
Absolutely.
Even if you don't get on?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, wait, and I'll introduce our today's guest. We're very, very lucky to have this man alongside us today, Razio. Lachie Jones joins us.
How are we going, fellas?
Welcome, Lock.
It's good to be
beautiful hair.
Beautiful hair. You were back in the team last week as well.
Yeah, first game back. A couple of medical sub games, so it was nice.
Nice to get out there and have a run around.
I wasn't too thrilled about flying to Tassie after some of the boys' reports about the weather, but it actually turned out to be quite nice, so might be making a trip back there one day.
I watched a bit of that game. I was a little bit disappointed. You haven't been doing your touch lately. Do we need to go through some ground balls out there after this episode?
I've been working hard, man. Putting in a bit of effort with Strong, so it's improving. If you watched the game a couple of weeks ago, you probably wouldn't have been too thrilled, but it's on the up.
He's quick, mate. He's too fast. He does everything rapid. If you two ran 100, he'd get you by 40.
That's fine, but I wouldn't fumble the ball, which he tends to do. But we can fix that. I'll, if I have to come back in a little help-out role, do a bit of extra touch like I used to last year, I'm more than willing to come back. But let's get back. Let's straighten up to the footy. 4 wins on the bounce. We had to go down there, beat North Melbourne. A lot of people outside would have thought it was just to turn up and get the job done. The first quarter set that game up right from the first bounce. Yeah,
it did. And I think Ken reiterated that point, so I'm not sure if you've had a chat to him this week, Rock. I know you two are very close, but that's exactly what we sort of said. And Lachie, you can agree with me on this, that we didn't want to just go down there and expect a win to happen. You know, we wanted to play our ruthless brand of footy, and I think that first quarter and the rest of the game really showed it. There was a few patches that we probably would like to iron out, but the majority was the way we wanted to play, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah, I think that's been a showcase of the team over the last 4 or 5 weeks now. I think we're number one in the competition for points against, so you can tell that our defence is back, and that's what our game's been built off over a number of years now, is that repeat entry, set that wall up, don't let the footy come out unless we score. And credit to you boys that you've been able to turn that round so quickly, because the way it was spying, that could have gone either way, but hard work only turns that round, and I think everyone had confidence within the club, but there's certainly a fair bit of noise outside the club, so it's a really good effort. We make the trip down to Geelong this weekend. This sets up to be a really important game for the footy club. We can get back to even tilt. We can go to 5-5. We know that Geelong's one of the toughest road trips in the game. What do we expect this weekend going down there?
Yeah, as you said, it's definitely going to be tough. They're a bloody good team. And that ground, have you played there before? You played a couple of times?
Yeah, I've got 3 votes there a couple of times.
Have you played there before, Jonesy?
No, never.
It's so narrow, so you know what it's like. So they defend it so well. So when we try to move the ball, it's definitely probably more a long kick sort of game and outnumber sort of game. We can't really tend to go around because they do defend it really, really well.
The one thing in our favour is they haven't played that ground that well of late. So I think they've lost 4 out of their last 5 or something like that at that ground, where it used to be 40 out of 41 type setup. So
Yep.
they are vulnerable down there. We don't expect them just to roll over. They had a bad loss last week again at St Kilda as well. Is there anyone we expect to come back? We know that you're a possibility to come back into the 22 and play.
Yep.
What have the discussions been around you this week?
Yeah, I hope Ken listened to the podcast and hopefully he picks me. But I had a good session after the game, so obviously didn't get any minutes in that game, but did a good match sim session after that and train again this week and put my hand up. But if not, we'll get down to Loxton and have a run around. But Charlie's in the same boat, I think, as well.
Yeah, Charlie's in the same boat, so potentially not play or...
No, I think he's a sniff. He trained today, and I think he'll train again. And I think that'd be up to Ken and what they decide. But we might both go to Loxton.
How do we go down there? I'm sure you've started the preparation, Jonesy. How do we go down there and beat Geelong this weekend?
Yeah, obviously we know they're a high calibre forward team and they've got a lot of experience. But I think just contested footy and playing front half footy is probably they've been the two main areas that we know are going to help us a long way to winning the game. So if we can get it done on the inside and keep our ball in the front half, then we give ourselves a good shot.
The forward line structure for them is really good and important to them. Do we expect TJ to come back in? I think he's out on Friday, is he?
Yeah, I think it's Thursday night or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure he'll help out that back line and really shore it up back there when he gets in.
And as you said, it's an important game for the Sanford team this weekend. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, big game, the Russell Ebert tribute and in Loxton, so going to be huge, as we had Hartsey on the other day. So I'm pretty sure he was out at training today, and I think he's back. So it's going to be a good game, and the boys are pretty keen to get up there and get a win. We obviously had the bye this weekend, so itching to play.
Yeah, it is a really important game for the football club, and we do appreciate the Sanford allowing us to go out there and play that game in the Riverland where Russell cut his teeth originally, then came in and was such a huge figure for the football club. It's important that this game goes ahead, and what a way to take that game out there and play that game. I know if I could play, I'd love to go out there and play, but it is really important, and it's important to thank West Adelaide as well for taking that game there and coming to play that game. I think it's important now that we mention the jumpers that they're wearing here. The great man next to us, Lachie Jones, designed these, so you can pick these jumpers up as well as the playing jumpers from the Port store or online. They're selling very, very quickly. Record sales, I'm hearing.
Yeah, Jonesy, a few family members have got onto it too. A few mates from back home have bought some Guernseys.
Yeah, I've had a lot of mates from home flick me messages about them buying Guernseys and wanting to get my number and stuff like that. So it's pretty special in that sense. But yeah, obviously a huge honour and privilege to design this year's Sir Doug Nicholls round Guernsey. And yeah, like you said, it's hot property at the minute.
Hot property. We were going to jump into questions from the fans, but I think we might leave them just until you go into the design. You spoke about your grandmother yesterday in that press conference. Do you want to talk us how the design came about, why we've touched on the jumper, and why it's important to you, and talk us through the story of that? Yeah,
so obviously on my dad's side, Nana Peggy, originally she was born up north in Borroloola. And was a part of the stolen generation. So she was removed from her family at a young age and taken away to an all-girls school, I believe it was in Alice Springs. And from there, she did several things before she eventually made her way to Butte on the York Peninsula. So yeah, the Guernsey sort of, it shows her journey and people involved. And the main piece, I don't know if camera can see that or not, but the main piece on the front, there's a brolga, it's a water bird. That was her totem animal. So I thought wanted that to be the main piece to sort of honour Nana, and it came out quite nicely. And that was co-designed by an auntie of mine and one of Nana's nieces from up in the Northern Territory. So Madeline Dirty, credit to her as well. And then yeah, talking about her journey as well on the front. We have all the circles, the meeting places, and then the connections between all of them. And yeah, so that sort of just depicts her journey from Borroloola, where she was born, to Butte on the York Peninsula, where she passed away 2 years ago from a stroke. And then obviously the blue symbols resemble people, so people involved in her journey as well. And another cool piece the brolga on the back in the middle of the meeting ground symbolises her resting place. So we spoke about that being buried home in Butte, and it was sort of the beginning, the end of her journey and the beginning of mine. So cool little piece that tells a story.
It's a fantastic story, and you touched on the start and the beginning. Do you want to talk us through the journey that your nana had? Do you know a lot about it, or is it being passed down to you?
Yeah, it was probably something that didn't really know a whole lot of before Nana passed away. It was, the whole stolen generation thing. I thought it was a bit of a sensitive topic, and I was never too game to ask about it. And I mean, I probably didn't have an understanding like I do now. But there's still bits and pieces that I'm learning. But from what I've learnt from Dad and Pop, Nana's husband, she was taken away from her family at a young age. Her mum was Indigenous and her father was a white man. So back then that wasn't allowed. Taken away, and she was sent to an all-girls school in Alice Springs, where she spent quite a bit of time, a few years. That's where she did her schooling and most of her growing up. And I believe she did some trips to Melbourne with those girls, and you'd be set up with a family for a little bit. I think it was sort of just an experience, and sort of where her journey began to reconnecting with her family as well. So, and like I said, there's still bits that I'm learning, and talking to the old man and Pop as well. It's pretty intriguing how she actually made her way back up there. It wasn't until many years later Dad had kids at this stage. So Dad and his sister went on a road trip back up north, and I believe on the way there was a car broken down with a flat tire or something. And conversations started about what they were doing while they were travelling up north so far. And she said she was on a journey to find her family, and she said her name was Peggy Butcher. And I'm pretty sure it turns out that the family in the car happened to be one of Nana's sisters. So
oh my God,
wow.
They followed them back into town, and sort of, obviously you haven't seen your family in I don't know how long it was at that stage. Could have been 40 years. And then that's how the connection back to her family started. I've only unfortunately done one trip up north myself, so we were supposed to go end of last year, and that was going to be sort of a good lead up into the Guernsey, but unfortunately COVID ruined that. So like I said, the journey's going to continue, and I'll learn more about Nana's story as I go. So as for now, this is the perfect starting point.
You took the next question out of my mouth there, Jones. I was going to ask you how many times you've been up there, and you were meant to go up there, and obviously COVID interrupted.
Yes, unfortunately I went up once for a funeral, and then we planned a whole trip to go up end of last year, myself and a few boys, and boys from the club.
Yep.
And then I think it was literally the day before we were supposed to leave, COVID cases, and back then it was a no-go zone. So still look to do that trip at the end of the year. Yeah,
of course. Tell us what this Guernsey really means to you. We're going to wear it for this week and next week, so your family will be there to watch you wear it. What does it really mean to you, mate?
Yeah, I guess it's sort of honouring Nana, honouring my Indigenous heritage.
Yep.
It's a big round, a big couple of weeks. So it's going to mean a lot to my family as well, especially my mum and dad, who have done so much for me to get to football now. So I think it's a good opportunity to, look back and see how my journey's come around as well. Yeah. And it's off the back of a pretty marvellous journey itself.
Yeah. You speak about the jumper, and it also, I've read that it celebrates your own journey as discovering yourself as an Aboriginal man. Can you talk us through that and what transpired there and how that journey's going for you?
Yeah, so I guess growing up in the country and only having Nana around, sort of a little bit disconnected from our Indigenous family. So it wasn't really a conversation that I'd had until I was maybe a little bit older and sort of understand bit more through school programs and talking to to other Aboriginal like helpers at school and stuff like that. So yeah, it probably wasn't until Nana actually passed away that sort of sparked a lot more interest, not sort of interest, as like a need to, find out more. And it's unfortunate how it comes about, but I'm still young. I've still got plenty of time to learn, and I'm pretty sure Dad still is learning bits and pieces. So yeah, it'll be good to get back up and learn that.
And obviously Nana was a big part of the Guernsey, but she was a big part of how you're actually at the football club now through the Next Generation Academy.
So obviously ended up on the York Peninsula, which happens to fall in the Woodville sample zone, and then obviously Woodville falls under one of Port's 4 SNFL clubs. So yeah, we're pretty fortunate in that sense, and a bit of a luck of the draw really. That started, the NGA program were in the area, and was fortunate enough to get out to a few local trainings on York Peninsula, which is originally where it started. So we were training in Maitland, which is about an hour south of myself on the farm and back home, and a couple of trainings there, and it eventually graduated to a couple of trainings in Adelaide. So at the time we were still back in the country. It was a 2-hour drive. There's no Northern Expressway there. So it was a pretty big ask for Mum and Dad, along with training at Woodville as well. So we did as much as we could, but obviously, club understood circumstances, which was good. And at the time, I think originally it was Paulie Corcoran that started the program until he unfortunately got sick, and then Paul Stewart took over. So sort of got a pretty strong relationship with Paul in that sense, because it was more than just getting to the club last year. So yeah, and then through the draft, Port never really got told that Port were going to pick me. I didn't have an interview with them at all.
Kept it
sort
quiet.
of just assumptions, but Paul sort of told me on the outside that we're going to take you. So from journey through Woodville in their sample to then getting drafted at the end of 2020. It's sort of been a bit of a ride.
Yeah, well, Bobby Carlisle's claiming that he did discover you in a carnival. Is he right by claiming that or not?
There was a footy carnival we played at Footy Park. I can't exactly remember what it was for. It was some form of Indigenous program. I believe that could have been where it started. I mean, it's a few years ago now, and I can't entirely remember. But I do remember sitting down with Bobby and having a conversation, and he couldn't believe that I wasn't playing football in Adelaide at the time. So it was pretty weird and cool at the same time.
Sir Doug Nichols round, how important is it to you now that you're an Aboriginal man? Is it spoken about inside the footy club? It connects all you guys in a space that connects you right around the competition. It was a great day yesterday when all the jumpers were launched right around Australia. All the Melbourne teams got together, the South Australian teams got together. That space, how important is it to share everyone's stories and listen to them, but to have a round dedicated to this? It must be just an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's more than footy. Like you said, it connects everyone in the AFL with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island backgrounds, and it gives it's a good opportunity for stories between players, past players, coaches, anybody involved in the AFL. It gives them an opportunity to provide those stories to young ones, and it's been good for me. I mean, I was fortunate enough to play last year as well in Sir Doug Nichols round, and that's sort of where my understanding, I didn't really have a huge understanding of the round pre-AFL, but my first one sort of understood a bit more, and just realised it's more than footy. It's a chance for everyone to connect.
We really appreciate you sharing all those stories with us, how the jumper came about. It's a really special story, and you should be super proud, and I'm sure your family are, of what you've been able to put together there in the jumper. I want to move on now to Lachie Jones, the footballer. We've spoken so much. We haven't spoken about you as a player yet. The boy from Butte. Sorry, I'll get that out. I apologise about that. I can sometimes mumble my words. But you made your way to Port Adelaide through the Next Generation Academy program, pick 16 in the 2020 National Draft. You were a defender, you won the Eagles Premiership, and then you found yourself on Port Adelaide's list. Can you talk us through your footy journey? I know you touched on it a little bit, but where it started and where it's at the moment.
Yeah, so Auskick in Butte, not a very big town. Population back then, it could have been between 300 and 400 people. But yeah, Auskick there at, I can't remember what age, it might have been 5 or 6. And then he sort of just progressed through, so under 10s, 12s, 14s. 17s. When it got to under 12s, we were combined with another team, Baskerville, just due to lack of numbers. So we'd play half the season following Butte, half the season following Parsky, and it was sort of separated. So that was from under 12s, 14s, and 17s, and you'd have the under 12s go one half, and then you'd have the 14s and 17s follow that half, and then they'd swap halfway. So that was pretty fun. Made a lot of mates during that period. A lot of them I went to school with. So I started school in Butte, which was where I think we had like 60 kids. By the time I finished in year 6 to move to Kadina to the larger school, I think we had 3 year 6s at that time, who I'm still close with to this day. And then you move on to the bigger school, and that's, you're a small fish in a big pond. Then I think was the largest school outside of Adelaide, largest public school. And then, so at that stage, by the time I was 15, I think, underage sample program started at Woodville through scouting, playing association games back home in the country, and then was fortunate enough to play, a few games for under 15s. I think it was just a minor, like 3 games or something, carnival. And then was, at the time, it was a pretty big deal as a kid to play sample footy. You sort of felt a little bit superior, but all my mates had done it. I was a late bloomer, so I was pretty chubby as a 13, 14-year-old. So wasn't lucky enough to get picked in those years. But then 15, most of my mates were down here already. So caught up with them, and 16s was I think you play like 8 or 9 games, and then a final series. Got through that. We were no good. I think we won like 2 games. Yep. I reckon I played 4 of that season. And then this is in behind the scenes, was still coming to the club as well, keeping contact with Paul, going through game review and stuff like that. And then under 17, so bottom age 18's year, was a pretty successful year, that one. We won the flag that year as well. So that year we had a lot of players get drafted as well. So I think that's Cozzy Pickett, Lachie McNeil, he's the year after, Josh Morris, Marty Frederick, a few other boys, been drafted over the years. Yeah. So pretty big list of names to keep up with there. The footy factory Woodville is.
Off it, mate.
And then, so like I said, fortunate enough to win a flag at 17 in the under 18s competition. And then the following year was fortunate enough to start training with the league side, or league and reserves in the pre-season, not really knowing whether I'd play or not, sort of, this young kid. And then progressed through, and there was a few other players at the time that were training up as well, like Taj, obviously, in the program as well as a father's son. So it was good training with those players that I knew. And then later on in the season, pre-season, those boys went back down, and it was only me. So I was a little bit nervous, rocking around with some older boys. And then was, fortunate enough to play every game that year. Started slow with a couple of losses, and then I think we went on a fair winning streak, which led us into a good final series, which we didn't start off the greatest. I think we lost to North Adelaide, which put us back a little bit. I think we finished on top of the ladder, so we had a second chance. Then won the next game against South, and then North Adelaide in the grand final, and we ended up blowing it out of the water. Jordan Foote kicked a few goals in the second quarter and got us ahead. So, fortunate enough to win a league flag at 18, which not many people can say they've done.
Funny you say that.
Yeah,
I want to. Just 2 of us at this table can say
we've
done that. But anyway, I'll move on.
That's been an easy competition.
I do want to talk about that. Do you feel like that playing league footy and playing with the bigger bodies helped you transition into AFL a bit smoother?
Yeah, 100%. sort of the help with the routine as well. So, you know, going to gym, you never did as a young underage.
Yeah.
So those other bits as well. So, yeah, playing against bigger bodies, obviously the speed's different, and some of the physicality can be different as well. But it was a good primer to step up to the AFL level, and, you know, obviously was fortunate enough to play early on last season. But yeah, 100% helped.
Yeah.
You moved in with Cameron Sutcliffe and worked for the great Tommy Logan, I'm led to believe.
Yes, that's correct.
Can you talk us through first living with Cam and then working with Tommy?
Say what you can, don't.
Nah, it was good living with Cam. So obviously Cam's from Kadena, which is about 30 minutes from us, where I went to school. Didn't know him too well before I moved down, but I knew who he was. You know, one of the only AFL players to come from a small country town. And then, yeah, so Paul Stewart knew I was moving down. Cameron needed another housemate. He was living with another mate from back home as well. And they thought it'd be a good fit for, at the time I was 17, just finished school, you know, about to start doing some uni, try and get some work. So they thought that'd be a great fit. And it was good. So I ended up staying there for about a year and a half before they ended up knocking our house down and we had to move out. So, no, it was good. And then, yeah, so working with Tommy Logan as well, that came through Paul. Obviously, Tommy used to play here and a bit of a hard nut. Yeah, landscape and gardening. So ended up getting a gig 3 days a week to start off with, and then they worked out they liked me. So they said something about country boys and footy players that they like. So, yeah, ended up working there for just under 12 months before the draft.
Current living arrangements, please, now that you're at the football club. I go through your landlord first and then your housemates, and I want to know who does what around the house and how that house can possibly function.
Yeah, so currently living with Marty, Frederick and Dante Vicentini. It's been good. It's actually, I don't know who you would have spoken to that's put dirt on our names, but no, it's pretty good. It's probably, you're probably fair enough to say that, but it's a surprising mix. Obviously, Dante being Italian, you know, we get some good pasta in the house, and Marty's into sort of like some of the streety food, so cooks us good dinners. Like, and I think Marty's taking the cake at the minute. He had a lamb roast a couple of weeks ago, which was supreme. But nah, it's good. And I mean, they keep the house clean. We had an inspection the other week, and the house was clean, and we haven't had any bad reports. So,
who's your landlord? Who owns the house?
Kane Farrell.
And he inspected it?
He didn't inspect it. The real estate agent did.
So he's put you through a real estate agent?
Yep.
He's costing himself money there. I could do that if he wants.
Yep. He didn't want to deal with the hassles, so we're on to Ray White, Port Adelaide, which has been fun.
Jonesy, we're going to jump into some fan questions now. We've got a couple of really, really good ones here. So I want to start off with some hair and stash questions that the fans have written in here. And we're going to go with the first one, Chels_1618. Why does your hair always look so good? Is there a product that you're using, or what's the go?
People would be surprised that I actually don't do anything at all. So I've just gone down to the shower after training and I'll just let it dry by itself.
Yep.
In the mornings, shower, it'll dry by itself.
Nothing, no wax.
Might put product in it before a game if it's been washed and it's fluffy.
Okay.
Don't even tend to put a brush through it unless I'm going to get it cut. So
wow,
it does get pretty knotty.
You cut that hair? You cut that hair?
I have cut it once, yes.
Ben Schultz wants to know, how did it feel to be the only kid in primary school with a filthy mo?
Well, fortunately enough, I didn't have one in primary school. I think I started growing it at the beginning of year 12. So end of year 12, it was pretty nice. And yeah, no one else in school had one, so I look like the school drug dealer.
Oh. Jaden Kennedy wants to know, any tips? Is there any tips to grow a beautiful, luscious mullet like you have there?
No, from what I just said before, if you don't do anything to it, it's probably your best bet.
Now, BC, he wants to know, what past player do you base your game off?
Past player.
Or if you don't make it up.
No, well, there's probably one that I've watched a lot over the years, more specifically over the last 4 years. Byron Pickett and not because he was a defender, but just because he was a hard nut. I used to love watching his highlights, and I still do. Got a bit of a routine that I watch Byron Pickett's biggest hits with Here Comes the Boom every morning before the game.
Yep.
So, yeah, I just love the way he just attacks the ball. I mean, obviously some of the things he did in his day we can't quite get away with, but I think the same sort of mentality of being hard. But in terms of before I got to the club, players that I watched, probably Das, like Burn Jones, sort of a running halfback, was one that I like to watch and get some review from.
Yeah, well, I think it's coming out evidently in your game, that attack on the footy. We saw it, we reviewed it, a big smother into a beautiful ground ball, so love it, Jonesy.
Didn't fumble the ground ball.
Didn't fumble, mate, straight through. We love it.
Mate.
Instigator87 wants to know when you're appearing on Driving with Dixon. We know you love your cars and you've got probably about 6 or 7.
Well, mine's probably not quite as powerful yet. I think he's sort of got a benchmark. So I've got some things in the works in the coming months, but hopefully before the end of the year, I'll be pretty upset if he didn't get me involved. Yeah, I just want to do a skid as well.
Jess Bartel wants to know, what's your favourite part of the Guernsey you designed? If there is one, like the whole thing looks incredible. Yeah,
well, I think, like you said, I like the whole design as a whole, but probably not the part I designed, actually. The Brolga on the front, is obviously the main piece, designed by one of my aunties, Madeline. It's probably one of my favourite pieces, and then that combined with the Brolga on the back of the Guernsey as well, signifying, her passing away and my journey beginning. So
yeah, beautiful. We'll get one more question here from Greg's Zillard, if I've said that correctly. I hope I have. What was the transition like from a fan, because we know you're a big Port Adelaide fan, to a teammate? And have you built any relationships with some of your idols that you watch? We know you love Boki, and he presented your Guernsey in your debut, so that must have been pretty special.
Yeah, the transition, also we spoke about the transition playing with men beforehand.
Yeah.
So that sort of on-field stuff was all right. The off-field stuff in terms of diet is still getting there.
Yeah.
Kenny likes to have a conversation about that every month or so just to make sure I'm on track. But obviously there's a bit of a change up there, which is it's gone well so far. And there's always bits and pieces you can tidy up. But what was the second part of the question, sorry?
Just if you've built relationships with some of your idols, as I mentioned, Boki was, you liked Boki when you were a youngster.
Yeah, so I love Boki as a player. As a kid, he was always, one of the better players, and you sort of, as a kid, you tend to follow towards them. And then obviously he presented my Guernsey, so yeah, obviously built a bit of a relationship with Boki, like all the players you do. But Boki, get along with him very well, and especially all of the young boys as well, build great relationships with them.
A couple of things out of that last little question there. I realised you didn't say that you become friends with me, who you idolised growing up as a young boy, and also that Kenny speaks to you once a month about your diet. I used to get that daily. That was a daily conversation with Ken. Now we're going to move on to cop or cut. Now I'm going to explain this segment to you. So we're going to get you to rate 8 people at the football club's haircuts, and you've got to either cop it, that's a great trim, I'd cop that from the barber, or cut. You'd have to be crazy to willing to have that on your head, cut it off. All right?
Yep.
Considering yours, what would you do with his? Would you cop that if you walked in?
I'd cut that straight off.
Cut that straight off. Oh, I'm not willing to have that anywhere near me. Let's start with your favourite player growing up, Travis Boak.
Yeah, that's a cop. I'd cop that. That's plain and simple.
You like that?
Yep.
Trim. Are you just saying that because you like Boki? Or?
Oh, I'm not going to say I don't like it because I like Boki, but no, it's plain and simple.
Yep.
Not much to it.
It's immaculate haircut. Never a hair out of place.
This one you'll love. It's Josh Sin.
Cut.
Oh!
At the minute, right now.
You're not happy with it?
Nah, you shaved the sides too short, man. It looks out of whack. I mean, we have a similar haircut. When it grows back, it's cop because it's the same as mine. But right now, it's a cut.
So you love the mullet, just not Josh Sins. Miles Bergman, man bun?
Me personally, that's a cut.
Cut?
I'm not a long hair, all round type of bloke.
You're not a long hair all round, so you can have the business at the front, party at the back.
Exactly.
Simple. Charlie Dixon, buzz cut, would you?
It's a cut for me. I mean, you can't really cut that, but
You wouldn't.
Yeah,
you
no,
wouldn't
I
have
wouldn't. I wouldn't cop it. No.
Sam Powell Pepper, clean bald. There's a few of these getting around. Chris Davies is another one. Chad Corns.
I think if I was going to cut my hair, it would be like that. So I'd
Really?
probably cop that. Yeah.
Cop that.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. What about Darcy Byrne-Jones? He's claiming he's the original Alberton mullet, but yours is a bit more luscious and his is a bit curly.
Pretty similar. I'm not too sure about the nothing on the top and curly at the back, but you got to look after my boy, so cop.
Cop it.
Okay, another one of your boys, your housemate, Marty Frederick, dreads.
Cop.
You copying that?
I don't reckon it would suit me, but it suits Marty and I love it.
Hey, I reckon you've almost got a few dreads unintentionally back there.
I do, but we're not talking about my haircut right now.
True, we're not. And lastly, Ken or Chris Davies? Would you? It's very similar to the Pep, sort of, but would you?
Which one would you go? Because
What would you
Ken
do?
has a little bit there, sort of trying to hold on, where Chris is...
Not copping Ken's.
Not copping
No,
Ken's.
I'll take CDs though.
Yeah?
Yeah,
You take
just
that.
because he gives me flack about mine every day.
So you
That's
won't cop Ken, so we'll let him know that you don't like his haircut.
He's not allowed to talk about mine. We made a deal.
Made a deal.
What was that deal?
What was the deal?
Yeah.
The pre-season game against Crows, we made a deal that I think it was if I had more than 20 disposals, he wouldn't talk about my hair anymore. And I think I finished the game with 22 maybe. So
We will get into this one, Dave, because there is a very funny story about Ken Hinckley and a few players with haircuts from back in the day. And
Okay.
hold on to that, fans, because I'll have to get it ticked off to make sure that we can talk about it. But it was a game against Brisbane, and I'd love to delve into that a lot more at a later date. Thanks so much for joining us, Jonesy. It's been a great chat. The jumper, you've done an outstanding job designing that, and to tell us the history about it. I'm just enthralled and was hanging off every word. It's a great story, and it's fantastic that you've had the opportunity to reconnect and start to learn more about yourself and your heritage. And unfortunately, your Nana's not here, but I'm sure she'll be very proud, and she'll be looking down this weekend with great pride. Feel free to hang around. We're going to do Fried Night Footy, brought to you by KFC next, where I think I'm going to get a stitch up because I picked the wrong margin. But thanks again for joining us.
no, thanks fellas.
This place is different. It has a soul, a heartbeat. It gets into your senses. It's more than football. It's belonging.
How good was Lachie Jones? He departed. He had a spring roll on his way out, which concerns me a little bit that they're sitting there. But how good was he?
Yeah, he was huge. Just how open and honest he was, and his fam up in Borroloola would be very, very proud of the man he is and what he's achieved with that Guernsey. They'd love that.
Yeah, that's up in Arnhem Land, southeast of Darwin. It's important that also we make acknowledgement that all the jumper sales and jumpers and merchandise, there's a percentage of that will actually go back to the Aboriginal programs within the footy club. So it's money well spent, not only on the great product you get, but also that it also going to a really good cause to continue to grow the Aboriginal programs around the Port Adelaide Football Club. Tasmania last week, I actually spent a little bit of time down there, Razbah.
You were down there. What were you doing down there?
I went down there for the footy club, GFG, went down to Georgetown,
Okay.
a really good trip. We trained at the local footy club, and it's great to see what GFG do around the local community. We know what they've done over at Whyalla, but they've got factories all around Australia, 150 of them, in fact, or thereabouts, and they pump money back into the local community, and in particular the football club. So they've put some money back into Georgetown, who was one of the most famous clubs in Tasmania. They won 8 premierships in a row in the early 2000s, and then they were on their knees on the way out, almost finished, and the last couple of years they've started to come back, and GFG's been really good. They've got a factory down there called Liberty, which they've started to reimburse and put money back in the local community. So a fantastic trip down there.
Did you say you trained? Were you going to play or something?
I took training.
Yep.
They want me to go back and play. I may have had a couple of pirate lives and suggested that I could go around and probably have 55 odd touches and then have the second half off.
Probably more. What would you be worth on the country market, Rock? I'm talking probably big cabbage, brown paper bag, Sean Burgoyne sort of stuff. Oh.
Yeah, well, it'd have to be a minimum, say, $5,000 cash in a KFC bucket.
Yeah, of course.
with chicken in that bucket as well. They'd have to have that. A keg of Pirate Life would have to be offered up. I'd have to be invited to all footy trips, no matter how much I play, whether I play 5 minutes or 1 minute. I'd have to have a trainer, a personal trainer that follows me around with a water bottle. Yeah. And also, when I go off, I can get a massage or whatever I need, strapping. They would be a couple. Would have to be a private plane fly in, fly out type setup. But I think that's pretty reasonable.
It's not too much to ask, is it?
I wouldn't have thought it'd be too much to ask. So if any local clubs out there want to put that together and get me to run around and have 55 at half time, more than welcome to do that. So we're going to jump into Fried Night Footy now, brought to you by KFC. Last week's results was the Western Bulldogs Collingwood game. The Dogs won by 48. I was very nervous at quarter time. It was all over. My margin was 15 points. I didn't think they would win that comfortably, but they were very good. You went 23 points. So you've organised a challenge. It concerns me a little bit. There's food here.
You love spring rolls.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous to say the least. I've heard there's a bit of heat behind them.
Yeah, you should be nervous. It's fair to say. When I gave you the sour challenge the other week, it wasn't as good as this. I've got a bit of Mad Dog hot sauce.
Mad Dog?
Yep. Shout out to the big Meatos, the Mad Dog, who wanted that nickname to stick. But this stuff is, we've just tried a little bit off air, and gee whiz, it is absolutely smoking. So I'm going to drizzle a bit of this on these beautiful spring rolls that we've got. There is some saving grace for you. Fluoro Milk Company, a bit of iced coffee, just to sort of cleanse
nervous.
the palate.
I'm not going to say
afterwards.
that. That's why I've taken the jumper off, because I'm a bit scared that something might happen. Just put it on one, because a bit of off-air talent.
Do you want to smell
Sully, our cameraman, he's been eyeing off those other two spring rolls. So
smell it first. I'll give you a smell.
Ooh, that burns. Just
yeah,
put
just
it on one.
Yeah, okay.
So Sully can tuck into those others.
Oh!
No, mate, that's too much.
I didn't think it was coming out that quick. Okay. All right, dry. Yeah, that you can massage that and do your best there. That's unbelievable.
This isn't even funny. Like, it's not.
Okay. Do you want me to open this milk now?
Yeah, you should. What sort of milk's that?
It's a Fluoro Milk Company iced coffee. No sugar, so it's good for you. Oh, Rock, that looks...
Now, I'm going to eat this. You make sure you commentate it, all right?
Of course.
Continue to talk.
It looks bloody hot.
I may not be able to talk, and you might have to finish this last segment off.
I can. Oh, can you hear the crunch? That's good. As it tastes. The eyes are rolling back. You seem to be handling it well, Rock. It's not bad. I can hear some murmurs under your breath. That's hot?
That's warm.
Yep. Oh, the eye. Oh, no. There's a few coughs. Oh.
Do I have to finish?
I think you have to finish the spring roll. You've got to get it all down if you can.
Oh, that's warm.
Oh. Is it tears? Shoved it in 2 bites. Well done. Oh, there's a bit of sauce on the plate. He's coughing. Can you zoom in on that camera? Oh. Here. Milk if you need. It's there. Flush it out.
That's too hot. That's far too hot.
You've done an amazing job, mate. You're sweating.
I'm a heavy sweater at the best of time.
Get the milk down. The iced coffee will just cleanse the palate.
Why anyone would buy that to eat it? Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we almost had to sign a waiver just to, warning here, this is a very hot sauce. Use at your own risk. So, well done, Rock. Well done. You've nailed that. Well done. That's definitely the toughest challenge we've had. So, well done.
That's no good.
Do you want to quit? We've got... Well, this Friday night is Carlton, Sydney at Marvel. So, what are you thinking there? Can you even speak?
Who playing?
Carlton, Sydney at Marvel Friday night. Fried Night Footy brought to you by KFC. Pick your margin. Quick margin.
What ground?
We'll wrap it up. Marvel.
Carlton play that ground pretty well. They'll win by 15 points. This is too hot.
Okay, I'm going Sydney by 10. Well done, Rock. Beautiful. You rest up. We'll see you next week.
Thanks again for joining us on Rock the Razbah. I'm really battling here, Raz, but thanks for the questions as well. Continue to send them through on the socials. It's outstanding. Good luck to Port Adelaide, and thanks again for Lachie Jones.
It's unbelievable.
Are you good? You need more milk.
Oh, he is a bird.